Imagination was something that I always had. Always had imagination, and it always gets heightened even more when I watch like new cartoons. Since I was a little boy, since I was a child, I would see different TV shows, cartoons, anime, and it made my creative juices flow. And it was very funny because as a young child, and to this day, I still love it. Sonic was one of my biggest inspirations and still is my biggest inspirations to this day. Sonic gave me so much imagination and it made me think about it so much. It was kind of mind blowing. The game specifically that really just gave me all this imagination ideas is really Sonic Heroes, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and Sonic DX. I was always so enthralled by these games because when I was a child, I was like, man, I was like, I thought they were mind blowing. And my mind was like, how did somebody make games this perfect? Now, of course, you'll look at the games now. I'll say Sonic Adventure DX to be specific, the one on the GameCube, not the Dreamcast Sonic Adventure, the director's cut. You look at it now, and people will say it's bad. You'll have split groups. You'll have people who say it's bad. You'll have people who say it's good. But as a child, it was like the ultimate game to me because I got such a big amount of inspiration from it, and it kept my imagination going. I would imagine being in the Mystic Ruin. I would imagine being in Station Square. I'd imagine being on Eggman's egg carrier, and I would always imagine what the characters were doing um, when we're not in the story mode. How we have the story mode. I always imagine like the characters' everyday life, like their day-to-day life, and that's why I really like the egg carrier so much because I see Eggman has like the robots that clean the egg carrier, and so the egg carrier is always super clean, and I always been interested by Eggman, mostly because he'll like create robots, and those robots will create robots, and then he'll have robots cleaning, robots building, So it makes perfect sense that he has like these giant egg carriers, or he'll have like the Final Fortress and stuff like that. Even though Metal Sonic probably made the Final Fortress, um, but still, the reason why he has all these giant, crazy, places. You play Shadow the Hedgehog. He has like his own casino land, um, stuff like that. If I remember correctly, in some of the comic books, he actually created like Eggman Land and whatnot, because he always talks about making Robotnik Land or Eggman Land and all that shit, or Robotic City and all that. Robotnik City. He always talks about creating his own city or land. Um, and he does that in a couple of the new video games too, but I haven't played some of the new ones. So forgive me if like my information on some of the stuff is kind of blurry because some of the new games I didn't really play that much. I was one of those people who played a lot of the old school games a lot. So Sonic Adventure DX, for example, is one of my all-time favorite Sonic games. Sonic Heroes is, and then Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is on the GameCube. And my imagination would flow because I would just be like, man, like I wonder what Eggman does when he's not fighting Sonic. Like, what does he do? Like, you know how in Sonic Adventure DX, you see him have like that swimming pool area. There's like the swimming pool, and you go into like the little room where you get Amy, where Amy gets out of the jail cell, and she's like hitting what's it called? The little Sonic, um, the little Sonic game, stuff like that. Like I'll be thinking to myself, I wonder if Eggman does stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like as a kid, that's how my mind used to wonder. And it was always funny too because I would dream about that stuff. Like I remember dreaming about the Chows all the time. And for those people who don't know, Chows are like these cute little creatures. Um, they're basically little water-like creatures because Chaos from Sonic Adventure DX is literally a mutated child. A mutated child that becomes the god of destruction, which I actually didn't know that as a kid. It actually blew my mind when I found that out when I was like 14, 15. Like I put two and two together because his name is Chaos, which is child, basically without the S. So I ended up putting two and two together. But it was always interesting just to see, how my imagination would just carry itself. And it wasn't just in that game, and it wasn't just in Sonic, but I always was just so, just so deeply enthralled and just excited to just see all these different worlds. It started out with Sonic as a kid, I really loved Sonic Heroes, and I loved all the different stages in Sonic Heroes because I felt like it was such deep world building as a kid, and I still think it's really good world building because it makes my imagination run. Like in Sonic Heroes, once you get past the Sea Palace, when you get into that like futuristic city, my mind as a kid used to wonder, and I used to always be like, man, like I wonder what it would be like if they had put this in Sonic X, right? And we could have seen like the bottom half of the city. You know, how there's like the bottomless pit at the bottom, and you see the cars riding around. Like I always wondered what it would have been like if Sonic would have actually been in that city and we could have seen like the stuff down there or whatever. I always imagined what the city was like down there. The casino levels of Sonic Heroes, I always imagined, you could see all the little lights and stuff down there at the bottomless pit. I always imagined what the city was like down there. Like my mind would get that deep into it. It started with Sonic, but then it also, matter of fact, you know what? I wouldn't even say it started with Sonic. It started with Pac-Man World 2 when I was younger, before I even played Sonic. When I first got my GameCube that my grandma bought me, it actually was Pac-Man World 2. Um, it was Pac-Man versus Pac-Man World 2. It was like a double pack. That was the one I had as a kid, and I just rebought it because I remember I think I sold the game because when I was a kid, I could never get enough money to buy new games. So what I would do is sell my old games at like GameStop and then buy the new games. Um, I used to do that all the time as a kid, and it's actually kind of funny how a lot of people are always like, GameStop only gives you a little bit of money because, nigga, when I was a kid, I literally bought myself a DS, bro. I was like, nobody gonna buy me once I sold all my games. Bought a DS. It was actually kind of sad too because the DS was like broken. So my friend's mom like took me back up there. She gave them the DS, and then they gave me a new DS that actually worked. And then I ended up having my own DS. It was really cool. I was always hyped about that. Like I just thought it was cool because I bought my own stuff as a kid. Like it's actually like really crazy when you think about it because like other kids my age weren't that smart. They wouldn't think that deep into it. Like we didn't care. Me and my homies was just doing a bunch of shit. Like so I bought hella games. I bought like PlayStation games because my PlayStation 2 had been stolen anyway, so I didn't have a PlayStation to even play the game. So I remember I sold like all my PlayStation games, like Vice, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and all that stuff because it was like I couldn't play it, so what was the point? But actually, my imagination actually started to Pac-Man World 2, and then Sonic a little bit after that. Because when I was a little kid, that was one of my first GameCube games, and I loved Pac-Man World 2 because the world in that game is deep. For one, I love the world map, and I love how you start in the little Pac-Man village, and I love how you just slowly go around the map until you get to the Ghost Islands. I always thought that was so cool. You start out in the Pac-Man city, you go into the little valley, then you start getting deeper into the forest, and you start seeing all those saws, and then after that you go into the ice area, and then you ice skate, and then after that you start going into the volcano levels, and then after you beat that you go to the water levels where you're literally in a submarine and you're swimming underwater, and then after that you get onto the shore of the Ghost Island, which I thought was like always the coolest thing when I was a kid. And Spooky is, I believe his name is Spooky. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Spooky. Let me look that up. Um, I'm like 99% sure his name is Spooky. But he was one of like my favorite villains as a kid. And I remember my friend, I had this friend who had the exact same video games as me. So he played the same games and I would see him beat the games. Um, a lot of the time, like he had like Sonic DX, he had Pac-Man World 2. Um, yeah, his name is Spooky. Spooky to me was like one of the coolest villains as a kid. I was like, bro, this is the coolest villain because I had like an obsession with Pac-Man. um, yeah, Spooky will always be really cool to me. Matter of fact, I might make a ghost a villain in my own novel because I'm writing my own novel. As you can see, my imagination runs like crazy. Um, yeah, one thing I always thought was interesting about this game is how Pac-Man turns gold like a Super Saiyan, basically, and fights Spooky. There's always this golden thing. Like there's always these characters that turn gold. Um, and if I remember correctly, it's based on like some old Japanese folk tale uh, called The Golden Boy or something like that. I'm pretty sure. I could be butchering that, but I'm pretty sure they got it from some old Japanese folk tale. Um, but yeah, it's just these games. They pushed my imagination really far as a kid, and Pac-Man did that first, and then Sonic did that with Sonic Adventure DX, Sonic Heroes, and Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. And then after that, when I was a little bit older, probably around 13 to now, Adventure Time pushed my imagination a lot as well. And then One Piece as well also pushed my imagination. And I used to watch that as a kid as well. One Piece was a show I watched, and I watched the 4 Kids version, the one that everybody hates. That's the one I watched as a kid. You know what I'm saying? It's funny too because I remember the switch. I remember it going from being the. I remember watching Toonami, and I remember watching the final episode of the 4 Kids One Piece, and I remember it switching over, and I was like confused because I swear they started cussing, and I was like, what the hell? I'm like, when did they start cussing? Because as a kid, you don't think about like different dubs and subs and all that stuff. You're just like the voices change. That was a big thing with the Dragon Ball Z too. It was weird. I swear in Dragon Ball Z the voices changed like 4 times. For real, I remember watching Dragon Ball Z, and I remember and Dragon Ball Z also pushed my imagination a little bit. Um, I remember Dragon Ball Z would go. It would start from the beginning. You'd see like the Raditz Piccolo Goku fight, and it would go all the way to like the first episode of when Goku lands on Planet Namek. I swear I remember seeing that shit so many times, and I would be hyped to see the next episode, and then it would like reset. I swear it did that like 2 or 3 times, but I swear it did. Um, it was really funny, and it's crazy too because as a kid, I watched Dragon Ball Z as a little kid. I watched Dragon Ball Z, and then as a teenager, I watched Dragon Ball Z Kai, and I watched Dragon Ball Z Kai on Nicktoons Network, and I watched it on the Vortex or the CW for kids, the Vortex. And I believe the Vortex was like the last change to it because it used to be the Fox Box when I was a little kid, and then it became the 4 Kids, and it became the CW for kids, and then it became the Vortex. Um, and this was like the final show. This was when they had like the final version of the channel, and they had like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Back to the Sewers. That was like the final season on there and stuff. And then I remember they had Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal was on there, and then I remember that shit just ended, and there was no more Saturday morning cartoons. I swear I was sad as hell when they didn't have that no more. That was like the highlight of the weekend. I do miss that. Like I still miss that to this day. Like if they brought that back, I would watch it every Saturday. Um, that was always something that made me like really happy. Was watching the Saturday morning cartoons, bro. Don't nothing beat that, man. Don't nothing beat that. Um, but yeah, One Piece and Adventure Time are some of my biggest inspirations, and they push my imagination to this day because it's kind of mind blowing that one dude made all of that for both shows. From Pendleton Ward, I was calling him Pennington Ward, and that's not even his name. I think it's Pendle. Let me look it up. I swear I say his name wrong. Pendle Pendleton Ward, because I was calling him Pennington Ward for like the longest time. It's Pendleton Ward. Pendleton Ward, the creator of Adventure Time, and um, Shiro Oda, the creator of One Piece. Two of my biggest inspirations. I love them because their shows, you know, are so deep. Like One Piece manga is so deep. Oda is a madman, and that's why I feel very disrespected when people, disrespect him because I watched a video earlier. Um, I watched it earlier, and then I watched it like a day ago. I was watching a video, and apparently this man literally writes One Piece all day and then goes to sleep at his desk for like 3 hours, then wakes up and keeps doing it again. Right? He wakes up and keeps doing it again. And even when he was in the hospital, he was still writing One Piece. And then the creator of Naruto, Kishimoto, actually came and helped him, while he was on his bed. And I'm like, this man is a madman because he knows. And I'm gonna say this. It's gonna sound a little cocky. I know how he thinks. He's thinking about the fact he wants to finish One Piece before he dies. That's number one. And then number two, he knows if he takes too long of a break, he ain't gonna want to do that shit no more. I already know that's what it is. Because he's gonna get too used to being able to relax and whatnot. So he's literally like giving up his health. Apparently he has diabetes, he has the gout. Um, you know, it's crazy. Like he is so enthralled, obsessed, and into his series, and I love it. I love the obsession. That's how I'm trying to be with my own series. Have sleepless nights, get obsessed with it, really be into it, and keep growing it. Because man, to me his series is perfect. I don't care. People complain about small little stuff. They don't like how the characters look, stuff like that, or they don't like the backstories, or the backstories are too long. I don't care. I'm glad that I get to witness Oda's greatness and to see his work ethic. It's like a super inspiring. Rather, even if people are like it's not healthy, whatever, it's still inspiring. It's like Kobe Bryant. It's super inspiring that he's really into his craft and has mastered it like that. Like it's mind blowing. And it's even more mind blowing because we can all do that ourselves. Like as people, you as a person, you can do that. It's just that people don't really put in that effort. Or they get too scared. They get too nervous. They get too shy. They get insecure, and they're too worried about people liking their work. One thing I've learned about myself, I don't really care if people like my work anymore, but I will tell people about it a little bit. Just to get a little bit of that out. You know what I'm saying? But I'm getting to the point where I'm getting way more focused, and I'm trying to ignore a lot of distractions in the background because I want to finish it. I want to get it done um, because I want to have my own legacy. You know, I want to create my own legacy. I want to be like, hey, look, I wrote this book. Just like Pendleton Ward, he has Adventure Time. That will always be his legacy. Oda has One Piece. Even if something happened to him, God forbid, I don't wish that on him. But I'm just saying, he still has so much work that he finished. It's still a beautiful ride, nonetheless. Like even if it doesn't get finished, it's like we still get this long, good ride. I enjoy all the time I've had with the characters. It is what it is. Um, but yeah, I love both of these men so much, and I love what they've created in the world, man. Like, and I want to create my own thing like that. I would love to work for Cartoon Network. That's one of my dreams, to be honest. It would be so cool to work for Cartoon Network and create shows for them. I swear, I bet you I can make like 30 different shows. I bet you I'd have Cartoon Network great again. Cartoon Network, creators Cartoon Network, if y'all ever watch this video, let me work for y'all. I will burn myself out to create cartoons for y'all. I swear, and I know that I'll create a whole bunch of amazing cartoons that people will watch. I guarantee you. Like Cartoon Network, if I was working for Cartoon Network, I swear, for one, my book, like I would make a show based on my book. It would probably be the art style would probably be like Adventure Time, just to make it simple and easy to write. Um, but I would like to have, I would wish that Cartoon Network would do more shows like Adventure Time. There was some similar to it, like Infinity Train, Steven Universe. What was it? Over the Garden Wall. Um, Chowder, I would say, is kind of low key in that little bracket. I really like Chowder. Um, what else? Cartoon Network has some legendary shows, but it always pushed my imagination a lot. And even now, my imagination is so crazy that I literally dream about, writing my story and writing my novel and whatnot. It's kind of crazy. Um, but yeah, it's just the imagination. I would say use that to the fullest. any of y'all have like very deep imagination, I would say create a manga, create a book. Don't be scared, just do it. Don't care about people's criticisms or people bullying you. One Piece is one of the biggest selling comic books of all time. Like Oda makes a whole bunch of money off of it, and he still has thousands upon thousands of people that call it trash, call it stupid, call it dumb. Um, you know, so just follow your dreams. You're gonna have people who have mental problems, mental issues, who are gonna hate your stuff, even if it's like perfect. You're still gonna have people complain about it, or it just might not be their taste, and that's okay. But I would advise everybody to follow their dreams and to use everything in your arsenal, every tool you have to, um, do whatever it is you desire to do. And I will always support people. If you're like, I don't got no support, I will support you. You come to me, I'll support you. Because I know what it's like to not really have anybody support you on your dreams. You know what I'm saying? In that certain area. Um, and it can be kind of frustrating when you're like, I just need somebody who would be like, this is cool, this is interesting. Because everybody needs that. It's very hard to just kind of ignore that and just kind of go through your work. But I highly suggest you not tripping about people liking your stuff. Just make what you want to make. I'm telling you. And it will, if you work hard, you work deeply, you work smart, you work intelligent, you work, what's the word that I'm looking for? Um, you work strategically, um, and you just keep pushing, you will see some people that like it. Just think of it like this: for the millions of people that might not like what you create, you'll have millions of people who love you. You have people who will be like, "This saved my life." I've always wanted to hear that from a person. You saved my life. Your words saved my life. You let me know there was somebody out there like me. Like I've always wanted to hear something that deep. I've heard some stuff similar to that. Um, I remember I was telling this young girl, she was 18. I was like 23. I was telling her about college and how to maneuver in college, and she was just like, "You're a cool person," and she was super nice to me like all the time when I was at work. And she said she really appreciated everything that I was like telling her. She was like, "I really appreciate you telling me you're a good dude. You know, I love you, man. You're awesome." And she didn't mean I love you like I love you, I love you. She meant like, I love you, like you're cool, you know. And I remember that really made me feel good in my chest. You know what I'm saying? Like cool. I'm inspiring like younger people. I really like that. Um, and that's what I want to do. I want to inspire people to follow and chase their dreams. But to also realize that it is a lot of work. Um, but I'll keep saying this: keep dreaming, but use your dreams to your advantage and your imagination as well. If you have a very deep imagination, use it. Write poems, write novels, write your own fantasy novel. If you want to write just self-help books, you think you know everything about self-help, just write the books. It's better to have all these different books that you wrote, to leave something. Because I believe in just leaving a legacy. That's the biggest thing in the back of my mind. And my legacy is my fantasy novel. Um, and I'm gonna talk about it way more online too. So if you guys want to like follow it, want to hear about characters and stuff like that, I can make more videos on that. And I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna put it out there. Um, but I hope you guys have a good night. I hope you find something in this video that brings you some type or some sense of joy. Um, and good night. Have a good night.